Hi guys, well, I want to do a very short video about a collision I had at sea. Didn't want it to happen. You know, no matter how much caution you use, sometimes shit happens and no fault of your own. That's what happened. So basically, I was coming back on a trip from La Paz to here. I made a 20-hour run, and I was watching. I had the watches out. There was two of us on board. We were doing our watches. We saw the boats. We stopped to avoid them, but in the end, we still collided. And here's what happened. Come on forward. Let me show you. Okay, so basically I was up here on the helm. We're coming back. It was about 6 in the morning. The sun was still down. It was December, so it was dark, short days. And it was fishing season, so there's a lot of boats in the water. So I was watching the boats. I had Geraldo watching that side. And I was sitting up here like this. So you got a good view. Kicking back, watching the traffic. And Geraldo tells me, he's over there watching that side, that there's a boat coming close to me. And I says, how close? And he goes, close. So I went out and looked. It was about 350 yards away, and it's overtaking me. It's back behind me a little ways. So I figured, okay, let me see what's going to happen. So I'm watching him. I'm also watching traffic out here. There's stuff going on. By this time, I'm here like this. I'm looking. I'm watching the back. You can see out the back window. I'm looking over here because there's a lot of boats out here, and they drag stuff and what have you. So I see the boat, and he's going to overtake me. I try to pick up the speed. No, not enough. He's just going way too fast. So I bring him back to idle. I watch him, and I can tell that his drift is coming towards me and is not going to make it. So I bring it all the way back to a stop. I let the boat stop to let him go by, which he does. But as soon as he gets past me, he turns to the right and starts cutting across my bow. So I figure, all right, I'll just sit here, stop to let him go. So when he's up there about 250 yards ahead of me, quite a ways out, I notice that he's got these little arms down. And I'll show you a picture of those boats here in a minute. And basically, they have these big arms that go down. Well, let me show you the picture of those boats to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, so these are the fishing fleet out here of Mexico. See those boats? And you see those big arms that stick up like this? Let me zoom this out a little bit. He's got those arms that stick up. They all have those. And they leave them in the wet water. When they're fishing and stuff like that, a lot of times they're in the water. Okay, so those are the boats that I just showed you. So basically, I'm sitting up here, watching. I get that, I see the boat, I let them go by. I come down to the controls. I'm keeping an eye on stuff. Now, what we didn't know at the time is that that boat that was overtaking me was towing another boat, but I didn't know that because the length was tremendous. It was very, very far. I would say 500 yards between the two boats. It was a lot. So far that you wouldn't know they were connected. So, and by the way, they didn't have the towing lights. If you're towing, when boats are towing, it should be 2 if it's a certain distance on white ones, and if not, it's 3, what have you. But they don't use those, they don't understand that here. So anyways, not only is he towing, he had his arms down. So when the arms are down, a lot of times they're towing stuff. They're cables, there's nets and things out there. And they always run with them down, even if the cables are not in the water and they're towing their nets, because that's where they store their stuff. So I says to Geraldo, hey Geraldo, and it's nighttime and you can't tell, and there's a lot of lights. They got the fishing boat lights on. Everything's really lit up quite well, except it's dark. I says, take a look with the binoculars and see if there's any cables going in the water. So he takes the binoculars, and I'm over here watching traffic. I'm stopped by this time, and I want to make sure no one's gonna come T-bone me from the side. And he takes the binoculars, he says, yes, there's cables in the water. And I says, oh, okay. And I'm thinking, these things could go back quite a ways behind the boats. So I want to make sure they're not underneath me, because now he's pretty much coming across my bow. So I says, take the high-powered flashlight and shine it in the water and see if you can see, because the water here is very clear. And he says, see if you can see any cables. So he goes to take the light and shine it in the water. But right as he's walking towards the door, there's this loud crash. I mean, a very, very large crash. And this boat pitches all the way over to the right. And I'm basically hanging on like this. I end up right here like this, banging against the wall, and I'm hanging on. And I had socks on, so my feet slipped out from under me. Geraldo's on the door there, hanging on himself. And I look up and I see the bow of a boat going right past us and just smack up against us with the bow of one of those big boats. So I tried to go up and I couldn't because I'm slipping. I could hear the water rushing into the windows downstairs because the boat's pitched that far off to the side. And I'm expecting it to roll any second. So I'm figuring I don't want to be on the low side if this thing rolls. I'm going to get to the high side. So I kick my socks off of my feet and I climb like this and I grab this and I walk myself up to the store right over here. I get to here and I hang on. The boat is right here. And the bow of it is about little ways up over there. The anchors looks like it's gonna rip my window. It's got a bow anchor and it's sticking out. And when those arms are down like this, they have a cable that goes forward that holds the cable from drifting back, and there's one that goes back and there's one that goes up. They're called guys. Anyways, what had happened was the boat that was towing him basically turned in front of me and dragged him into me. Now that cable that was in the water that was hooked to the boat that was being towed, had we made a turn, if I had powered up and I was thinking about going behind that guy, letting him go to the right, had I done that, that cable would have came underneath my boat and completely ripped the bottom of the boat open, zipper like a zipper, and sank this boat. I was fortunate that I stopped and didn't do that. However, he dragged that other boat into me. So now we're here like this, and Geraldo's yelling at the guy. You'll see it in the security cameras, which caught all this on video. And he's pounding on the boat. Bang, 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 and I'm pounding on the boat, yelling at the guy, stop the boat, stop the boat. Because I tried to power out of it, but he's going so fast and his arm is down like this, and my boat is cradled inside his boat, between his boat and the arm, and being dragged sideways and turned on its side like this. It's a miracle it didn't roll. I expected it to roll any time, and I wanted to be, like I said, at the high side. So I'm hitting the horn, Geraldo's yelling, and they're yelling, they're pounding on the door, telling their captain to stop the boat, you know, the guy that's being towed. They were saying, wake up, wake up, wake up. And they're yelling at the guy. I guess he was sleeping, and the one that was being towed was sleeping. Anyways, it's almost comical. We weren't going to separate. They weren't stopping. So we just sat here. We figured, well, this is what it is. I'm going to sit here, and we dragged for what seemed like an eternity. It was probably 2 or 3 minutes, but when you're being pounded and dragged, it's scary as shit. So we're sitting here, and I says, don't you have a cell phone? Call the guy in front. You know, so he gets out his phone. The captain had woken up by this time. And he calls the guy, I guess. I would imagine he called him, because at some point the boat that was doing the towing stopped. The cable went slack, as you can see the cable taut. This boat disengages and we separate, which is great. And let me just show you kind of what happened. By the way, I got to show you a picture here real quick. These little arms right there no longer exist. And I'm basically going to show you the damage of what happened when we came. So here's what happened. The cable came along there. This boat got turned sideways. And we get slammed alongside that boat. Remember, we're inside his arm. My boat's this way, his boat's this way, and I'm being pulled like this. Full 12 knots. I mean, it didn't slow their boats down at all. The cable came through here, and since it wrapped around there and pulled this way, it ripped that arm off back there, and it took these two things off. It came up against here and just ripped everything apart because the boat was turned sideways. There was a boarding ladder here, completely destroyed, flattened out. That boarding ladder saved me because it took the brunt of the impact. These little brackets here that you can see, they've all been repaired and they're straight now, but they were all bent sideways. The ladder bolts onto that. This rail here, there was a handrail, a wooden rail here, it got crushed, it's gone. This here's where the other vertical existed. It's gone, it was completely wiped out. You'll see pictures of that. This beam here was split in two. We repaired all this since then. This beam came down, it was completely gone. The cable came through here and through here. And if you switch sides with me here, let me take this thing down. Basically, the cable, since remember the arm's down like this and it's pulling me, and the swing arm is back a little ways because the cable, the forward guy was what really grabbed me, and it hooked my boat in like this and pulled it in, and it came through here. It busted this and broke this and bent this big chunk of metal. There was a ladder here. I've since replaced it. This beam here was the only saving grace of the boat of the entire day, because the cable came around here, and this thing's solid steel, aluminum. Had this not been here, the cable would have seesawed right through this thing and ripped the roof right off of this boat like a zipper. So that's basically what happened. The whole thing was dragging. There's a video of the dinghy. I asked Harald to pull the dinghy in because if we have to jump on it to get on it, I was getting it ready to jump on it in case the boat sank. Fortunately, it didn't. And that's what happened. And it was just a big disaster. I will soon show you the video of the upgrades on this boat. So I wanted to change some things anyways. This rail was a pain in the neck to be varnishing. You notice that I've changed the color of the teaks and all this, and I got rid of that big ladder and I put this up. I wanted to change those things anyways, just not so quickly. So there's a silver lining in everything. the fact was that had this boat been hit, had I moved forward just a few more feet, literally, we're talking feet, this would have been flipped, it would have been sank. They probably would not have reported it, because when I got to the harbor here, they didn't say anything to anybody, and I was told I better report this because it's illegal if you don't. And when I did do it, one of their guys, one of the fishermen, had gone to the harbor master and said that I crashed into them, just in case. And the security cameras, which you can see them, here's one over here, it's caught everything on tape. So when the harbor master, and then of course my marina manager says, Gene, you need to report this. This is illegal, and you're going to get in trouble if you don't. So I'm not one to break the rules. So I went up to the harbor master and told him what happened. He says, yeah, we heard about it. And I was like, what? He goes, well, what the harbor master told me basically is they were illegal because if a boat's in tow, they're supposed to report it, and they're supposed to follow a certain course, and they're supposed to notify it on the radio, which I could try to get a hold of them on the radio too, but nobody answered. So they got into a lot of trouble. I felt bad for them. I didn't get any money for it. They gave me $500 for a settlement. It cost me $2,000 to fix everything. I didn't expect anything. It's the fishermen, they take it out of their salaries, and these guys work hard for their money, so I felt that was wrong. And by the way, the towing boat was the one that was fined, not the boat that was doing the towing, which he created the whole problem. But in the end, it's fixed. I'm done. I survived. It could have been much worse than it is. And I don't know what to say. That's just basically it. I mean, when you do everything right, sometimes you get hit. No fault of your own. So, just as I can say, two tails and all is well. My girlfriend hates that bell. Okay, so there's the vertical column that got broken. By the way, it wasn't structural, it's just cosmetic. There's where the cable was rubbing. The tow cable, it busted that thing out. Another view of that. That was basically busted out when it came backwards and forward. There's a ladder that took the beating. The strong last ladder saved a lot of. I never replaced it, but it was solid stainless steel, and there's the pins that held it in place, and the whole thing. There's some more. That's another view of the vertical piece that broke off. There's the beam that got split open. And there's some more view of the top damage. Right there's another view of the ladder, and that's pretty much it. Any of you guys are wondering what a overnight crossing looks like on a boat. Here it is. I got a little video light going. Here's how much more we got left to go. We have 5 hours. We arrive at 7:30. It's 32 miles to go. We crossed this entire 140-mile crossing here. Got all the red lights on. Of course, the video light makes this white, but all the lights are on. And my buddy's helping me out. He just woke up from his nap. And we've been snacking all night. I got a light on the patio on the back, just so I can keep an eye on the dinghy. There's the black ocean out there. There's a moon up there somewhere. There's the moon. Just cranking along. 6.5 knots. It's been a day and a half, 30 hours non-stop.
Ustedes vienen dormidos, que no nos vengan de hace rato. ¡Dale para atrás! ¡Dale para atrás yo! ¡Dale para atrás más! ¡Dale para atrás! ¡No le dais reventar! Mira el que está frente, que le dé reversa. El que está frente, que le dé más reversa. No es posible que no nos vean. Aquí. Tiene que parar el motor aquel. Lo está jalando. Dale para atrás el tuyo. Dale para atrás. No puedo dar para adelante. Se lo lleva para atrás, mamá de verga. Se lo va a llevar. Se lo lleva con el ancla. No, dale para adelante porque te vas a propelar con aquel cabo, con el cabo que lo tienes. ¿Qué quieres que haga? No puedo dar para adelante. No, usted no puede para adelante. Porque se va a llevar para el ancla. Ahora sí, amigo, él, espérate. No, espérate ya. No, es que si le das para atrás, para adelante. Dígale, no, para allá. A ver, cable, este. Está quieto, cuidado. Vamos a ver para adelante. Dale. No, lose the fucking count. No puedes bajar más, entonces.
Well, here's the results of a crash. Believe it or not, some guy pulled across. He was passing me and turned in front of me and dragged another boat into me. That broke. This bent. Nothing on that side. And then this busted from the cable and the boats colliding. This piece of wood broke. See that big crack? These bent inwards. I got a little damage there. All these little braces that holds the ladder, the boarding ladder, they broke off. This ladder took a serious hit. Probably saved my ass. It would have been more hull damage, but the ladder took the brunt of it. Then this piece here broke. You can see that crack? And that's as far as it went. Everything on the boat got shoved over to that side because I was being dragged sideways. They're very large boats. Oh, and then in the back over here, the cable that pulled this off also went through here and broke these things. Well, there's what happens. Boating in Mexico.